Hey, what's up everybody? Cruz here with Dungeon Boxing Club. Today I'm gonna do something just a little bit different. So I showed up to the gym today with the idea of doing a video on a piece of equipment, you know, like a product review. I like to do that to give you guys some ideas of some of the equipment that we keep here at Dungeon Boxing Club. But as I was working on the video, I kept fumbling, my words, and I started getting a little frustrated. So like after the 10th, 12th take or so, I realized that God was trying to get me to slow down a bit and focus on something else. So I don't know where this is going. You know, I'm just gonna kind of wing it here. I feel like God is asking me to share a little bit as to why I started Dungeon Boxing Club. So before I get into that, I just want to give a huge shout out to my beautiful wife, Teresa Ramos. Baby, without you, none of this would be possible. You're my strength, you're my encourager, you're my business partner, you're my lover, you're my everything, my best friend. Without you, none of this would be possible. So thank you so much for everything you do here for Dungeon Boxing Club. So a little background story on me, a little history on me is I was raised here in Sunnyside. I did grow up with both my parents in the picture, but I grew up in a very hateful environment. It was a very toxic environment. So at a very early age, I did everything I could to stay away from my so-called home. So that led to a lot of time out on the street as a teenager. I got into breaking into houses. We got into breaking into cars, drug use. For a moment there, I tried to even sell drugs for a bit. I quickly discovered I wasn't very good at it, so that came and went. Getting involved with different girls, started getting involved with gangs. Just everything that incorporates being out in the street. I started to hang on to those things because I had nothing else to hang on to. My older brother was someone I always looked up to, but during that period, he was not doing very well himself either. I mean, if I was doing bad, he was doing 10 times worse, you know? So I didn't have any guidance. I didn't have any spiritual leaders. I didn't really have anybody investing in me during those early teenage years. So I kind of just try to find my own way. And I've always had that drive in me, that desire to do something with my life. Although at that time, I didn't know what it was. One of the big turning points in my life was when I was 18. Me and a group of friends, we thought it'd be a good idea to rob a store. I was really the one kind of behind everybody, pushing everybody, kind of making everybody make this thing happen. And well, I mean, long story short, we ended up getting caught. I got sentenced, I think it was like 36 to 38 months in prison for that. And I remember sitting in my bunk one evening, I don't remember, we were down at Airway Heights Correction Center. And looking out of my window there, they had these little windows next to the bunks, and I had this overwhelming feeling of emotion come over me, and you know, I started to tear up, and just this feeling of I'm not supposed to be here. You know, I'm not supposed to be here. There's something bigger for me. There's something better for me. And at that moment, I didn't feel like I was supposed to be there. And now as I'm older and staying out of trouble, I realize that all these trials and these things that I had to go through were not for me. You know, in a sense, they did make me better. Obviously, you know, I learned from my mistakes. I didn't do those things over again. But it was never for me. You know, it was so that I could take that experience and pass it on to the guys and girls that I work with now. I ended up getting out of prison in 2008, I think it was. And it still took me a while to kind of get into the flow of things and kind of start pursuing that call that I knew God had on my life. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, you know, I got out and I kind of went right back to doing what I was doing before, hanging out with the same people. And my wife and I, we really started going through a rough patch in those early years after me getting out. And it took a couple more overnighters in jail. It took some really bad situations at home for me to realize that things had to change, you know, something had to give. And I still had that feeling in me that I just have to do something to better my city. You know, I've shared with you guys before, I have a burning passion for Sunnyside. I love my city. And even then I felt like I gotta do something to make this better. But I was just young, I didn't quite understand. I was really selfish. I was always looking out after me and me and me, and not really caring about the people that were around me. So it took some really bad situations at home, and like I said, a few more overnighters in the Sunnyside jail here to get me to realize that something had to change. I had to do something different. And I've always had this boxing bug in me, you know. If you guys go back and read some of my blogs, when I was younger, there was this VHS tape that my mom had laying around, and she would record her little music videos and stuff on. And on this VHS tape, at the very end, there was a boxing match. Now, I just don't know who it is. I wish I could find out who was on that tape. But I remember watching this tape over and over every chance I got. And it would just resonate with me that these guys, they'd step into this ring knowing they're about to get hit, but they would still do it proudly. And every time one of them got dropped, he'd get right back up and get right back into the fight. And that always resonated with me, because that was the approach I had to take in life. Was, hey, I'm gonna get hit, but I gotta do it just like these fighters. I gotta get back up and I gotta continue to fight. So boxing's always been a part of me. I've always had an itch for the sport. I just didn't know it would become my ultimate life journey, you know? And I'm glad it is. I'm happy it is, because boxing is just the perfect parallel for life. You know, you get hit, you gotta get up and you gotta keep fighting. In boxing, we teach our fighters how to counterpunch. You know, you see something coming at you, you wanna move, adjust, counter. That's just the way life is. You see a bad situation coming at you, it's up to you to have the proper training, the right people in your corner to teach you how to counter that bad thing that's coming towards you. So there are times that I think about, what if somebody would have invested in me? You know, what if somebody would have took the time out of their day to love on me? What if somebody would have took time out of their day to make me feel valuable, to make me feel important? You know, what would have been the outcome? You know, maybe I would have ended up in college and not in prison, you know? Now, I'm not upset by the way things turned out for me. I'm super happy. I'm living my dream right now. But that may not be the situation for every child that walks through our doors, you know? And that's really what began, you know, in essence, what began Dungeon Boxing Club was, what if somebody would have invested in me? And I think about the youth now. What if somebody were to invest in them? You know, we get a lot of kids that don't feel valued, that don't feel loved. You know, what kind of impact can we make in their lives by just simply loving on them, by just simply telling them, hey man, I believe in you, by just simply saying stuff like, you can do it, by simply even planting an idea in their head and talking about the ability to accomplish a dream or a desire or a goal. And that's really what we do here at Dungeon Boxing Club. You know, we let God do what God needs to do, you know, in repairing those broken hearts or repairing those young minds after they've been through some traumatic situations. Our job is just to love on them. You know, it's just to giving them a home, a place that they can show up and feel valued, giving them an opportunity, a chance to be successful in life. You know, I think of just the outcome, how things could have turned out for me had someone taken the time to invest in me. And that's really what it is at the end of the day. Yeah, we teach boxing, but boxing is really just the hook, in my opinion. Boxing is just the hook to draw them in. Boxing is just what gets them through our doors. Once we get them in our doors here, then we can begin to develop them. We begin to teach them. We begin to love on them. We begin to nurture them. Because my objective isn't to create great boxers. You know, I believe if that's in their plan for their life, God is going to make that happen anyways. My objective is to create good men. You know, men that are going to go start businesses, our next city mayors, our city managers. That's my dream, is I want to create good men. And for my wife, she wants to raise up good women. Yeah, at the end of the day, that's all it really is. You know, we really don't feel like we're doing anything huge. You know what I mean? We really don't feel like we're changing the world here. You know, but if I could just make the difference in the life of one person, then I can go to bed happy at night. You know, and at the end of the day, that's just what it's about. It's just being the light in a dark area, being hope where there is no hope, being love where there is hate. So I thank God that I had to go through those trials that I went through as a child, because if I didn't, I wouldn't understand what some of these kids are going through today. You know, we had a pastor that came down to visit once, and he said something that's always stuck with me, and I've shared it a million times. He said, you may think you had a hard life. He goes, but in reality, you just had one hell of a training plan.